Welcome to Life Lessons in Lattes. This season, we are doing men's edition, Our Questions, Their Answers. I am your host, Lanisha Porter. I am Lanisha Porter of LanishaPorter.com and also the author of Maximizing Her. And what this book is about, essentially, it explores the themes of life, tradition, legacy, womanhood, and manhood. And last season, we catered more so to the narratives of women, and we talked with a phenomenal lineup of women. But I had some of the fellas in my inbox like, Lanisha, that's not fair. We have thoughts and we have perspectives too. You need to let some guys on the show. So this season, we are hearing from the men. That being said, as you can see, I am joined here with a special guest. Now, this guest by far is one of the most eclectic and finest minds I have ever had the chance to engage with. I'm not just saying that as a pleasantry. He is truly just a gem. He is a gift. I think everyone should have a chance to meet him and have the privilege to engage in conversation with him. I can literally explore any topic with him and we can go far in conversation with it. So, I'm here with my special friend, Daniel Cockrell. Daniel, welcome.
Hey, thanks. Great to be here. And that was just really flattering. I appreciate that, Lanisha.
I meant it.
Hyping me up.
He didn't pay me to say that. I mean it. I really mean it.
I didn't pay, no.
Listen, Daniel, you have so much going for yourself. Please tell the people a little bit about you. Who are you?
Who am I? Okay, so I'm not really my accomplishments, but I did happen to graduate with my master's degree in public health and behavioral sciences. So that was the last year of 2019. I recently started my business as a physical trainer. So, actually I'm working on my brand now. Me and my partner's brand, Ambi Flex. Yeah, so we got some merch. This is a sample of our t-shirts. And Ambi stands for Average Men Becoming Inspirations. So, so we're just here to really just motivate others to be mindful of their fitness and their wellness.
Yes.
As well as, give you some subject matter and some resources to develop yourself internally towards that end.
Well, I would definitely be a supporter and an advocate, and I'm going to get my shirt, and we can find the shirt and the merchandise at where?
Follow us on Instagram. So, Ambi Flex. That's our name. So come on, just follow us. We're going to post information as soon as the merchandise is done. Okay. We got a lot in store for 2021. 2021.
And health and fitness, as I'm getting older, I'm taking it more seriously because you need it. Your health is your wealth. And when you talk about generational blessings and just generational goodness, you have to have your body and your mind in top priority. So super dope what you're doing. All right, let's go ahead and get into it.
Okay, let's do it.
Honestly, you are the first guest because we're going to explore some deep topics and I'm not holding back. And I'm like, Daniel will be willing to engage with me in a way that won't make him uncomfortable. So let's just jump right in.
Okay.
All right. So if you have had the chance to check out my book, Maximizing Her, Navigating Life After Girlhood, you know that I talk about some important themes. And one of the themes, chapter 1, it's called You versus Them. And that basically talks about the caste system that society tends to put women in, good girl versus bad girls. Daniel, we're going to dive into that caste system and we're going to talk about the categorization of women in society. So, as I have already stated, there's a caste system which society categorizes women within, ranked most valuable to less valuable. One thing that I have noticed as I have lived my life is that also many institutions reinforce that narrative. Mainly, you see this in church. You see this with ministries, kind of shopping relationship theology and kind of selling to women, this is what you must do to be a wife. And while that is good, I guess, it is important to know the fundamental things of, how to have a successful marriage. I see that women are catered to more than men. Women get these betterment programs and men are not offered the same, grooming to be good husbands. So that's just something I've noticed. My question for you, be honest.
Mhm.
We're being honest here. Daniel, have you ever benefited from this caste system of the good girls, bad girls, most valuable women to least valuable women? Have you benefited from that?
Have I benefited personally? Potentially unknowingly. So when I put thoughts into it, like I've been around women my whole life, of course, and I've been around men my whole life, of course. So some of the things that are said to women is a little different than what's said to men. Like men aren't really expected to be dependent on women. So I've heard conversations regarding a woman's success, like, oh well, you're fine. You can just marry success. You know, you can marry your way into success, and just putting a hard sort of cage or maybe a pathway to where women are expected to groom themselves or like be groomed by society to be that wifey type, you know.
So, wifey type. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. You
yeah. So men, we're not groomed, or at least we're not groomed as aggressively to be husbands, right?
Absolutely.
So as long as you're a man, you have a pretty good chance of being married. So yeah, you just gotta exist, and you know. Unfortunately, like if we look into society, we see a spectrum of different kinds of women. So not every woman wants to be married. Not every woman is going for the wifey type approach. So we put these values in place, like good and bad, but it's really just more so nowadays that individual aspect we gotta include. So there's just different opinions, like men, and I think men have a lot of power because they're the ones proposing. 99.9% of the time, it's getting a little different now. Like it's
getting very different.
Things are changing, but because I've seen some posts on social media like talking about women proposing to men, so that's a little cultural shift. But traditionally, it's men that hold that power and the power to choose. Women in that situation, their power of choice is more so the power to be chosen. You know, like putting yourself to where you're noticed, to where like you gain that type of attention. Like, oh, I do want to be a wife.
Yeah, I think. So, go ahead. Well, I just want last season. You're like right on. We're seeing eye to eye on this. You're speaking to my experience because as I have been groomed growing up, you know, the idea has been it's your responsibility to attract a good man, and you're going to attract that good man, and you make yourself a top candidate to become a wife by the way that you act. And these are the things you must do. You must be a good girl. So you must wait until marriage. You must dress a certain way. Modesty is key. You can't hang around certain people. You know, you need to have these skills. You need to be able to be equipped around the house. You need to know how to cook. You need to know how to, you know, just be domestically inclined. And then once I started growing up, I was like, you know, I feel like I'm doing all these things to put myself out there to be this top ranking candidate. And it feels like it doesn't matter how you present yourself. Men are going to choose who they want to choose for whatever reason. So whether you're being quote unquote the good girl that society has secretly crafted you to be, because as I said in the book, a lot of these moldings come by way of secret conversation. And what I mean is that people won't necessarily just blatantly say it, like, do I really want to say that? People won't just blatantly be like, girl, you looking like a hoe. But they will say, you know, Lanisha, or, you know, young lady, I wouldn't do this because it makes you appear this way. And this would make you less attractive to a man worthwhile. But yeah, everything you said, yeah. And I think it's powerful that you said men just get to exist. Women have to be way more conscious of how we exist.
Right, absolutely. But in saying that though, like that's one of the ways that men benefit, you know.
Yes. Okay.
But also it hurts us because we're supposed to be a unit, you know, together. So we're talking about relationships, and if there's any imbalances in the relationship, including our roles, then they don't work.
What I have noticed is that I think women of our day, millennial women, I think they are more confident in opting out of traditional ways. So I think for certain we glorify marriages that last 30 and 40 and 50 years. And I know growing up, for me, it felt like there was a secret science behind it. Like, how are women pulling these perfect men that they're able to last and, you know, have this longevity in marriage? And it dawned on me, I think the last time I asked that question, I met a woman who was celebrating 50 years of marriage, and I was like, what is the secret? How do you do it? How did you get 50 years out of a man? And she's like, here's the secret. Are you ready for it? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm thinking she's gonna say something super profound. I'm gonna be years ahead because she's about to tell me the secret. She's like, you just stay. And I was like, you just stay? That is not no secret. Like, no, there is a science behind this. What did you do? What was your dating routine like? Like, there was something special you did. And she just said, you just stay. And I wouldn't understand the weight of what she was saying until I was older. And then I realized, wow, when she said she was staying, that means she was probably staying through a lot of things, a lot of obstacles, a lot of adversities. Whereas most women of my peer group, we're like, I'm not dealing with that.
Right.
I'm out. I'm outie 530. I'm not dealing with that. What is your take on that? Do you think it's better to have longevity or have happiness? If you can't have both to coexist.
That's tough. That's tough. Because what I was told, and I was told two different things. This is like me and the bros, like and the guys, like all the men in my life. Like this is where this information is coming from, because like we reconstruct manhood all the time. So one thing that one of the homies told me was that the last one standing is who you marry. That's literally what they told me. Like their consistency, they putting up with you, they understand you for like what you really are at the core.
Me and the ladies, we already know we having the same facial expression. Go ahead, Daniel.
It's that consistent. Like you want to put up with me. Like
the last one standing.
The last one standing is who you marry. That's what they told me. But also, like, the definition of marriage is what we're working on too. So someone I look up to told me that marriage is a training ground. You know, it's like a spiritual training ground. It's going to test you a lot, like to deal with a person, to notice their flaws, to see the good in them, but also recognizing the bad, recognizing their limits, and understanding that nobody's perfect and that we all mess up.
We all mess up.
But still, there's definitely a heavier burden placed on women, I think.
Yes.
So,
yes.
And that's kind of apparent. So
I think the biggest question for me, which this helps you kind of organize what type of person, what type of partner you're going to be in a marriage or whatever institution you want to participate in. It doesn't have to be a formal commitment. Maybe if it's, more casual. But one thing that I have learned is, what are you going to be willing to tolerate? Like, to me, that defines what it is you're going to have. Is what are you going to be willing to put up with? And will you see marriage as a place of no, don't frustrate my grace. You need to come already perfect. You need to come knowing these things, what not to do. Or is your marriage going to be a place where it is like this fountain of forgiveness and mercy? What's going to work for you? And I think if I were to marry younger, like if I were to marry when I thought I was ready to marry, like at the age of 20, 19, I don't think I would still be a married woman Like how you said, it's a training ground. There were things that I would have went into marriage not knowing, and I would have said, okay, you have frustrated my grace enough. I cannot be in this anymore. Like, I can't do this. And I would have opted out of it. But now that I'm older, I'm a, older young woman, I understand that there's so much more to it.
Okay, so did you redefine like what you thought about marriage pretty much?
Yes, I definitely have redefined what I think about marriage. We talked about this once, and we talked about being a subjective partner, subjective wife, or objective wife. And we talked about how most of the time we're just looking for someone to fulfill and perform our personal ideas of what it means to be, that partner. And I'm not sure that we really go into it giving people the space to bring what it is that they will. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I did that justice, but tell us more about the subjective wife, subjective husband. You did better at explaining it than I did.
Okay. So my ideas around like these entities, right? So when you objectify a person,
yes,
you're not looking at them as necessarily a person, but a means to an end. Like you want a boyfriend. Like, I have a boyfriend. Like it's sort of like you're objectifying them to the point where like they're nothing more than that. Like as soon as they start being themselves and show you what they really are, it's like, ooh, you cut the film right there. Like I didn't see that. I'm gonna look past that. Or you can be like, oh, you're not the one. I'm breaking up with you. Like there's just two extremes. There's really nothing in the middle, and everything's really more gray. It's more subjective, more fluid. So, and what I mean by subjective, like having a subjective significant other, it looks more, it's really in our language. Like objective is like I have a boyfriend, or I want a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and subjectively, like being fluid with the relationship, you're allowed to say things like, oh, we are in a relationship together. Like it sounds a little different. Like the subject is the we, so like it's in a way to where like I'm adding fluidity to it. I'm allowing you to be all these different things. Like yes, one of those things is your boyfriend or girlfriend. One of those things, yes, is that I am a husband or a wife, but that's not like the end all be all of your identity.
My next question to you, all right, as we're talking about the you versus them caste system, good girls versus bad girls, my next question is, I think both groups of women, whether you classify them as good girls or bad girls, I think that they're both catering to the desires of men. My question is, would you agree with that, right? When you think about the classification of a good girl versus a bad girl, I think fundamentally they're both wanting to capture the attention of men in some way. And one group thinks the modest way is the way to go. Less is better. And then there's one group of women that's like, nah, you only live once and I'm gonna do it this way. I'm young, I'm gonna have my fun, and I'm not gonna be confined by anyone's definition or, opinions. Would you agree that they're both aiming to cater to, at some degree, the desires of men?
I would say to an extent.
Okay.
To an extent, because
let's get into it.
Just like with the last question, men are in a position of power. So who's doing the proposing? Men are. So who's doing the choosing? Mostly men. So you have to kind of appeal to men to get them to get what you want. If you
yeah.
So I mean it sounds bad, but again that's with the whole objective situation that we just discussed. So if you want to have sex, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe your goal is not to find a husband at that point in time. So this is like a very individualized perspective. Like it's very situational because everybody's different.
Yes.
So the way you appeal to a man or a potential partner, sex partner, is going to be different than how you appeal to a potential wife. So with that, I would say, yeah, if you're in the men, like you definitely have to appeal to men's desires, but also you know, there's a side of the spectrum for men because again, I gotta speak from our perspective as well.
Yeah, go ahead, speak from y'all perspective.
So it's kind of like we're attracted to you all regardless,
Okay.
pretty much. So like the fans only situation that's going on, the OnlyFans, that let me know. I was talking with one of the homies, and they told me like some of the experiences they had, with this movement, and he told me of like some very like disturbing images. They may come off disturbing. Some people like it, and that's why it exists. That's why women are getting paid for these images. It's because of just how our selection works. The male selection works. It's weird. Like there's women who are out here like doing some pretty provocative things on camera and selling it, and they're appealing to men, but if that's the case, that makes men that variable of control. Like what we like is what they're going to portray to an extent. So I mean, that's not the end all be all, of course. Women also do their own thing, like what they think is attractive for them, or just making themselves happy, whatever that may be, whatever those activities are. But again, like men we have a particular like level of power that it's kind of like inherent authority. You inherit it in a way to where like
authority.
There's certain just like we don't have to be groomed to be husband. We just have to exist and we can earn that title. Then it's kind of like that. Like we just have it made for us in a certain way to where like, oh, this is what we like, and you can literally in our generation pick up a phone, type it in, and boom, it's right there.
Okay, so he's preaching. I mean, he said it very blatantly. There are certain things that men like, and there will be women that cater to those things. There are women that won't cater to those things, but at the end of the day, they'll have a group of women to choose from, And I think another powerful thing that you just said, an inherent authority. I don't think women realize how much we cater to those things. The male gaze is what I'm talking about. And a lot of times I hear women and see women do things and they say, I'm doing this for me. And it's like, no, you're not. You subconsciously have subscribed to the idea of what does this man like? What do men like? What's hot? What's popular? And the male gaze just influences what trends or doesn't. And I would say that everyone has done it. Everyone has been guilty of doing it. I for sure have, right? I know that I dated a guy once who was like, I hate weave, natural hair is it. Please wear your hair natural. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Like I like the weave. But then I found a certain motivation to wear my hair more natural, and it's like, why am I doing this? I had to stop and ask myself, am I doing this because I really like my natural hair, or am I doing it because I'm trying to fit into what he admires in his male gaze? So I think us women, we do have a way of subscribing and doing what it takes to get the male attention. So I'm glad that you have admitted that it's true, and it's a privilege that you guys have.
Right. It's not to say women have no power in it either, because we do a lot of things just for the attention of women as well. So, we gain status, we get the flyest cars, things like that. It's for us too, but we have to admit that like we want to attract women because that's our drive. Like if you're heterosexual, or if you're any of the if you're within the spectrum and you're just attracted to women, I mean, you gotta get their attention just like they gotta get yours.
Let's shoot a little direct here. I'm gonna look you right in your eyes. I'm gonna ask you a question. I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Oh, okay.
All right. As it pertains to the different categories of women, good girls versus bad girls. Mm-hmm. If you really liked a girl and she's like, Daniel, I want to wait until marriage. I want to abstain from any sexual activities. Mm-hmm. Would you be willing to honor that? I understand that men have passions and they have appetites. How does that work for a girl that's like, no, I want to abstain, although I do want to maintain your male gaze?
Okay.
What would be your honest reaction to that?
My honest reaction, it depends on which age you ask me to.
Okay.
And what level of maturity I'm at.
Okay, that's good. Okay.
So again, like in high school, I would probably be fine with that. You know,
Okay.
I would probably be willing to wait. But like as soon as I like started crossing over into college, I realized that wow, there's a lot of great women out here. Like why not take time to explore? Like you never know. So
Okay.
so there's also that version of me, and the way I look at marriage has also changed. So if my goal or like one of my immediate goals, because like you know goals like they have timelines. Like I have a timeline of like goals and objectives that I want to achieve. And if marriage isn't like immediately right there, or like if I can't see it within like 5 years happening, and there's other things that come in place that I want to do, then no, I probably would just fall back. I would just like, okay, that's what you want. That's not really what I want. I respect what you want enough to know that I'm not about to lead you on.
Okay.
I'm not about to just, you know, keep hitting you up, asking if we can do this, if we can do that, because I know what the end game is. I know.
You know. Okay.
Yeah. I mean. Yeah. I mean, we're going in two different directions at this point in time. So I'm going over here. You want to go that way? That's fine.
I respect it. Okay. So my next question is, let's slow it down a bit. If you're tuning in, thank you for joining. You're watching Life Lessons in Lattes with Lanisha. This is Men Editions. This is not a show for men, it's a show for women, but it's our questions, their answers. And it's all predicated on my latest book, Maximizing Her, which explores the themes of life, tradition, legacy, womanhood, and manhood. Daniel is our special guest today, and today I am asking him about the caste system that women tend to be categorized in, from good girls to bad girls. Daniel, what are some characteristics of a good girl?
Characteristics of a good girl. That's
from your experiences.
From my experience, what it means to be a good girl is just really being good to us.
Okay,
it's really being good to us. It's what we want when we want it, really, and that goes back to the authoritative piece.
What they want when they want.
So as long as you're good to me, then you pretty much can get married. You know, if you're the last one standing, like if you put up with me, you see how that works.
He's being honest.
So that's the narrative I'm getting from like overall society, because as soon as like she's for the streets is what we've been saying lately. As soon as you cross out and like you giving what I want from you to everyone else, it's like, oh, she's to the streets. So like,
okay, wait. Can I just pause right here?
It's very weird.
I'm seeing the reference, the cross. I'm doing the cross references in my head, and I'm sitting over here waiting for you to say key identifiers, and you're not saying it.
Right.
But while I'm ready to sit here and dissent, and I'm like, no, Daniel, this is what a good girl is. This is why we needed men on the show. This is what y'all meant. You're telling me the perspective of what men see. So it's not a matter of can you cook, can you clean, are you in church, are you in Bible study, are you reading your Bible? It's not. I'm getting the impression that you guys don't care about that. What you care about is what, as simple as you're saying it, if you're good to me and you give me what I want when I want it, that makes you a good girl. Is that true?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, the only thing is that over time we're going to mature and we're going to realize that, like through our experiences, like, dang, she's not cooking. I'm hungry all the time. And we spending all this money eating out, and we're not happy.
Wow.
You don't realize that from that deficit of not being able to decide on what you want and what you need, and how to really like grow together.
Moving on. Okay, so you've given us the definition of the good girl. What about the bad girl? The naughty girl?
The bad girl, the naughty girl. So
what are the characteristics of the girl that's lit?
Girl that's lit. So I mean, I guess that's a part of it. Like she's always drinking. She's smoking. Like just things that that lets me know that she's not really about settling down. So like she can't be the wife type at that point in time. At that point in time, that's not to say that she can't grow out of it or mature out of it. We all have periods where I think that you know immaturity or maturity is not really good or bad.
Right.
So you want to go out, you want to have fun. That's the purpose of life, to enjoy it, right? So it's hard for me to say, especially nowadays, because at first I know that I had the mindset where like, okay, I don't want no baby mama because I don't want no baby mama drama. Like if you already have a child, then like you can't be wifey type. So that was me like being like very limited, and at that time I understood that I did not want to deal with another man's kids. Like so that's a lot.
Yeah, and I'm with you. Yeah.
In our age group, that's a lot, and then I started thinking that, because I'm only looking at women of African descent, so I mean, we're considered a minority. I like the word underrepresented, so that's already cutting into the population, and scratching off having no kids is another big cut. That's a very big cut. So
yeah.
So I would have been missing out. Me being older, like I'm 28. Like that's my thoughts. Like when I was like 18, early 20. Just no kids, because your first kid's gonna be mine. Like if we choose to go that way. So I through my experiences, I realized that mothers, like, they have a different type of way of carrying themselves, and it's very complex. Women are, everybody, humans are complex, but women especially, like, to be like motherly to a child, a single mother at that, but then like having to be the man relationship because there is no man, right? So like just being able to like flip through those modes, it let me see like a different side of women that like I mean I was familiar with, but like I never really gave a chance to really like date or think about romantically. And there's some qualities that she developed through her experiences of being a caregiver to her child and her children that were definitely noticeable. And I'm like, dang, so I wouldn't even have seen that unless I gave baby mamas a try. I mean, so because baby mamas was like considered like at the other end of the spectrum, like bad girls, like no, like you're not wifey type. I'm not going in that direction. But like now, like my consciousness towards that particular topic has expanded. So.
You're being very vulnerable right now, and you're telling us a lot. Thank you for telling us these truths. And I imagine this probably can't be easy for you, because I think we can get so afraid of someone judging us for our preferences that we just keep it to ourselves. So I really appreciate you telling us what it really is and how it was working inside of your mind. And I think, as it pertains to chapter 1, you versus them, I would categorize myself as a good girl, right? Like if you look at most of my characteristics, people would put me in the category of being a good girl.
Right.
And the teachings that I received growing up definitely made me form some biases, right? So I grew up necessarily thinking, if he's choosing her, what does she have that I don't have? And so it became hard to bond in sisterhood with certain type of girls that had fundamental differences than me, because she's not even half of me. What does she have that I don't have? Like, I should be able to have top pick of the litter, you know what I mean? And so for you to say, no, the reason why the girls that you think should be overlooked get picked is because some people become mature enough to see that they're not damaged goods just because they have something that's less desirable. So if they
Right.
come with kids, that doesn't make them damaged goods. And actually, if you stop being so judgmental and so biased, you can sit down and see that she actually has really good qualities behind what you would write off as not good.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a point of maturity for me, is seeing that if a woman has been sexually active and maybe she has a high number of sexual partners, Lanisha would have wrote her off as like, nah, I can't associate with that. But wisdom and maturity has been able to show me that even if women have fundamental differences, that does not mean that they're not allowed to have happiness, to be entitled, experience the benefits of having, good partners. Like, so much in my mind has changed, and I think it had to deal with me with unlearning some things. I had to unlearn some of those teachings and some of the attitudes that came with those teachings, thinking that you're better than someone because maybe you haven't been as exposed to sex, or maybe you don't smoke, or maybe you don't you don't strip, so you think, oh, I'm better, I'm more prestige, I'm more but yeah. So good girl or bad girl, it doesn't really matter. It's really just based on what men want in that point in time. My question to you is this: if you were a woman, which one would you be? Would you be a good girl or a bad girl? Would you be naughty or would you be nice?
Would it be naughty or nice? That's really hard to say because.
Okay, why? Now remember, Daniel, all right, being a good girl is something that's been, most of the time for most young women, there are these things pushed upon you from when you're a little girl, from school to what you wear. Your shoulders can't be showing, your knees should not be showing, modesty is enforced on you. So you do that, compounded with the pressures of church, and then, oh, God forbid, if you have a dad, he's definitely pushing his ideas of purity on you if you're, a daughter. And then the secret conversations that you're hearing, happening with guys and how they talk about girls after they've experienced them. All of these things are influencing who you are. Which one would you be, good girl, bad girl?
Okay, with that in mind, I would have to say, from my limited perspective on what it is like to experience growing up as a girl into womanhood, it really be hard for me to pick, because me, myself, I just want to be my authentic self. If that was the answer, that's the one I would choose. Okay. Which is probably a combination of both good and bad, judging off of what haters say or what your friends say. Like, everyone's gonna have something to say about what you do.
Right, and remember, you're saying it's a hard decision, but remember, there are women in real life that have to choose who they're gonna be. This is just a scenario for you. So which one? Tell us. Go ahead.
Okay. So, probably to push the boundaries, I would probably be more of a bad girl. Just because I feel like being rebellious is more of a choice than the subjugation of society forcing me into this role and feeding me this script. I mean,
so you would even be okay with the consequences, like what people have to say, the reputation you would gain, the locker room talk, your reputation being shot, people writing you off, not wanting to date you because you've had experiences and you have lived your life with other men. You would still choose to be a bad girl, naughty girl.
I think I would have to just to push the envelope of society, because there's so many like narratives. It's when I feel as though like being good is not really a choice, but it's more so in compliance than like just to be accepted, or I'm conforming, so this outcome would happen. It's not really a choice. Like, I still want the outcome, and we're trying to formulate how like to get to that outcome. Like, if I was a woman and I wanted to be married, I have to do this, that, and the third, and maybe someone would notice me, and maybe that person's character would be what I actually wanted. Because see, it's not I'm dependent on someone else's attention and value system at that point.
Oh, you know what?
So
Go ahead. Go
so
ahead. That's good. He
so
said, "Oh, go ahead."
I would rather be a rebel to expand and show that like no like I am also this. Like I'll show you the extreme of what I am of what shouldn't be accepted, just to let you know that I have the capacity to do this, and you should have the capacity to still recognize me as human and not diminish my value because I chose to do this at this point in time.
That's good. One thing that I really like that you said is, being good is not really a choice. You're just doing it because it's a default setting in hopes to be compliant with what society wants. So you don't get those labels or you don't get shamed. And then how you just closed that and you said, I should still, or you would hope to be able to be your authentic self and explore without someone dismissing the human part of you. I feel like most women want that. You know what I mean? And one person I will say that I admire, Cardi B. Now, while we have fundamental differences and she definitely does things that I probably wouldn't do or say publicly, I wouldn't want on record, she is authentically unhinged from the expectations of other people. And I love that she's bold and she's courageous. And when you do that caste system where you rank women from most valuable to least valuable, good girls to bad girls, I think it takes courage to be on the polar side, the polar opposite end of, the good girl, because you are going against what people would expect from you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, throughout a lifelong hidden set of expectations, whether they're said or unsaid, you're going against all of that and saying, nah, bruh, I'm still gonna do me. And that's one reason why I subscribe to Cardi and I like her, because she's just authentic. She's herself unapologetically. Okay, so you would be a naughty girl.
Right.
So one thing that I noticed, and I think as I said earlier in the broadcast, I've been one of the women to do this, but most of the time, it's men shaming women. Women also shame women. And I think I have definitely been guilty of that too, right? Excluding women and saying, no, they can't qualify for the same things that I qualify for because I'm more closely aligned to purity than they are. When you see women do that, right, they have those mindsets, they have those attitudes, how does that make you feel? And have you seen that done, right?
So for me personally, it's a turn off. Because
why is it a turn off?
Just because I feel like it does not give a woman room to make mistakes.
That's good.
I don't feel like there's room for her to recover herself and her dignity and everything that, it shouldn't have nothing to do with her humanity or her womanhood.
Okay.
I would say that's the type of narrative that we see placed on those who really don't have a voice. We want you to be this.
Yes. And
if you're not this, then okay, I would rather you not exist. And we see that sexism, racism, all the isms, we see that. We see that in our criminal justice system. And we see that everywhere. Like, we're not going to invest in fixing you. We're not going to show you why you're wrong.
Yes.
You're just going to know because you're canceled.
That cancel culture is real in our society right now. That is really good. And I think in the book, one of the most pivotal moments that I've had, in my growth and just in my character is learning not to exclude women from sisterhood or friendship just because we might have fundamental differences. That's something that I've learned, and I think you really have to point it out and say, when you do have certain ideals about purity and when you give in and you participate in that caste system of good versus bad, you really do create divisions, unnecessary divisions.
You help sustain it. Yeah.
You help sustain unnecessary divisions. And I'm glad that you have just highlighted for us, like, I don't think men really care. Like, men are going to date who they want to date. And actually, it makes you look silly trying to lessen someone's humanity or their candidacy for love, you know? So, okay, that's a good point. Last question for you, Daniel. I told you guys he's one of the finest, one of the most eclectic minds I have ever met. And I'm happy that I've been able to have him on this show. Listen, last question for you, Daniel, is this. Why do you think that good girls finish last? Be honest.
Okay. I think that's just the values of men that are mixed up. Like you was touching on it. Like although men may say, like, when you ask them about their standards or what they look for in a particular woman, like if you ask them what they look for in a wife, they'll give you a list that contradicts a whole nother list that they're going to come up with regarding, like, you know, their dating preference. We're oftentimes not really connecting those because it's situational for us.
Okay.
So we want what we want when we want it. So early on in life, we may not be looking for that woman to be with forever. You know, we're not looking for. Now, so speaking on behalf of mainly myself and like my experiences and just like talks I had with individuals. This is not like every guy. So you may find that guy who's just like, yeah, I already knew, like that's my wife right there.
It just depends.
It just depends. It depends a lot on our conditioning too, because in our culture, we want to be able to sleep around, but to be able to sleep around, you gotta have people to sleep around with. So if you put those two concepts together, like men wanting to be promiscuous and women must be pure for her to be my wife, then I mean, like it's your own. It's conflicting. It's your own desires and what you want to do and how you want to behave that's going to really, you know, throw off the balance of things. Like so now, like if you wanted a wife who was pure, but like throughout like the first quarter of your life or more, you was acting a certain type of way, you're not going to ever attract that woman.
Yeah.
I don't think you would ever attract that woman.
Yeah.
Maybe by chance you accidentally stumble upon one, but we have this perfect woman in our head, and that's who I want to marry. Instead of like maybe connecting with that woman and like building that chemistry, because that chemistry portion, that's what's going to make it perfect. That bond that you build over time.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, you know, for whatever reason, maybe it's just our experience. We're able to experience. We have the freedom and oftentimes the expectation to sleep around and date who we want because we're the ones choosing. And I mean, if they're receptive, then you know we have the opportunity to meet like a variety of different women.
Yeah.
And that in doing that, we discovered that it's not so much of what we wanted at the time; it's what we didn't know we wanted. We never experienced a woman treating me this way. I don't like that part. I don't like the other part she does. But I'm gonna highlight this, and I want my wife to have this quality. So just us being able to be in those relationships without repercussions, you know, like we're not the ones that's going to be called a hoe, or we're not going to be the ones that are slut shamed. Can I say that? I can say that. Okay. I don't know if kids are going to be watching, like little girls.
They will, but they know. Okay. They know.
So we're not the ones getting that treatment. I mean, maybe recently we started getting some pushback, but it's like, well, we're still the ones that's going to choose. Like I'm the one that's going to propose in the end. I'm the one that's going to choose you to be my girlfriend in the end. And if I don't, then you're like, what are you going to do about it?
And one thing you said that sticks out to me is, you know, this purity culture, you know, men expecting women, wanting women that they choose to be pure and closer to purity, but also wanting them to be a freak. So it's like, where are women supposed to get the practice? You touched on that a little earlier. All right, Daniel, we're going to go ahead and close it out. One thing that I must ask you, as we close out this segment, we've talked about you versus them. We have explored the caste system that society places on women, ranking them most valuable to least valuable. predicated all on my book, Maximizing Her, Chapter 1. What would you say to a young woman who feels like, I am doing everything that I think I should be doing to be picked, to be a good candidate, to, become a wife in waiting, but I'm not getting chose? What would you say to them that internalize not getting chose right now? What would you say to them?
I would say that to attract the chosen one, to attract the one who will be doing the choosing, that you would just need to be yourself, because just like we talked a little bit earlier, I'm just going to expand on that. Chemistry is the most important part.
Yes.
Chemistry is the most important part. So you have to take your internal values, what you think are important, and you have to let it show. You have to let it show, not the values of what you assume men think are important, or what you assume society thinks is important. Because let's really face it, like if you're on one end of the spectrum, you're too extreme, and if you're on the other end of the spectrum, you're too extreme. Oftentimes, when you are yourself, you're gonna be somewhere in the middle, in the gray, and you'll stick out because you're being yourself. There's only one you.
Yeah.
And that's true intrinsic value right there, the true you.
And if I had to say anything to a young woman watching, if I had to go back to when I was younger and I felt that way, like I am doing everything that I was taught to do, and yet the girls that are doing everything that we're not supposed to be doing, they're the ones getting chose, right? Mm-hmm. When I had that mindset, I definitely felt shorted and I felt gypped in a sense, right? But actually, I don't think that's a cultural appropriate term to use, so I apologize. I felt cheated. And what I had to learn to teach myself, you guys, is do not internalize the decisions of men. Men are not catering to whatever choice is going to make you feel valued or make you feel worthwhile. Men are catering to their needs and their desires, and that is not for you to internalize. As Daniel so clearly spelled it out for us, it's about what they want when they want it. Just because you're not chosen that moment does not disqualify all that you are or the goodness that you are. So you just have to be true to yourself. Mm-hmm. You have to be confident. And I know it's hard to be confident because when you feel like you're doing the work, you're doing what everybody told you to do. You're doing what the church ministry said. You're doing what the older people said. You're doing everything right? It's kind of like planting seeds, expecting a harvest, and the harvest doesn't come. There's a certain attitude that comes with that, a certain sense of entitlement. And that's not to say good or bad, because when I work hard, I definitely expect to receive the benefits of it. And let me just go ahead for clarification and say we're not shaming good girls or bad girls. We're just talking about our experiences, right? But nonetheless, to say that be confident enough to understand that even when you are not the popular pick, understanding that you are still valuable. So try your best to be self-motivated instead of motivated by the male gaze or what anybody else is saying a wife should be. And I think you get to that point by, as Daniel said, just being true to yourself. Like, just being true to yourself and knowing how dope you are for yourself. Not validated by men, not validated by politics, purity, culture, just being you. So all in all, what I would say, take away from this is, do not internalize the decisions of men. They're doing what they want to do for them, not to betray you, not to disqualify you, not to be, rude to you. So that's that. Daniel, any last thoughts?
Yeah,
go ahead.
Just to piggyback, men, we're wrong. We're wrong when we do that. We're wrong when we operate from a selfish type of point of view. It's wrong when we just want to use women to a sexual end without consulting with them. Maybe they want to have sex with you too. And maybe that's all you two can agree on. But we have to communicate that. Communication is always key. But we can't just, start these situationships not on the same page, because we're hurting people. We may be hurting ourselves, and we're creating a culture in which we hurt each other.
Yeah.
We need understanding desperately.
That's perfect, Daniel. Thank you for touching the men. I was kind of just catering to the women, but I think if I had to add anything to that from personal experience, Daniel, men, your decisions really do have real effects on people that can mold, that can crumble, and that can crack, you know, the confidence of many women.
Mm-hmm.
And although you don't intend to do it and you feel like it's not your responsibility, true, it's not your responsibility. But that does not make the assault any less real or any less painful. So just as Daniel said, just be mindful that what you do has effects on people. And I think that's all that I would add to that. All right, so I am joined here today with my special guest, Daniel Cockrell. Daniel, tell us where we can find your brand, and tell us a little bit about Ambi Flex as we close out.
All right. So Ambi Flex, we got AMBI standing for ambitious, average men becoming inspiration. So you can find us on Instagram. And that's all you need to know. You just have to follow us. We'll feed you everything you need to know from there. We'll take it from there.
Okay. So mind, fitness, body, soul, nourishment,
wellness.
all of that.
You're trying to be
full
holistic.
wellness. Okay, so you be sure to check out Ambi Flex. I'm Lanisha Porter of LanishaPorter.com, also the author of Maximizing Her, Navigating Life After Girlhood. You guys, this season, we are exploring life, tradition, legacy, and manhood, and we will be joined from men to hear their stories, their perspectives, our questions, their answers. Be sure to join us next week for episode 2, where we will be discussing Men Are Flawed. We can't wait to see you next week. We love you. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share.
Peace.